Excuse me, I now call this regular meeting of the Board of Education to order at 7 p.m. If we could have quiet, please, so we can conduct our meeting. Please call the roll.
Ms. Pearson?
Present.
Mr. Rollins?
Here.
Ms. Mohammed?
Here.
Mrs. McCulloch? Mr. Siegel?
Here.
Mr. Connor?
Here.
Ms. Stanford?
Here.
With 6 present, 1 absent, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll now take a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. As we start each board meeting, it bears reminding that the mission of the Rockford Public Schools is to collaboratively engage all students in a first-class education for a changing world. Before we go any further, thank you to Connor Childers, who is working behind the scenes to produce the board's broadcast via YouTube, live stream, and Comcast Channel 20. I also wish to welcome Superintendent's Student Advisory Council Representative Mackenzie Wallace from East High School. We will now recognize and celebrate outstanding contributions of our students. And Mr. Earl Dotson Jr., if you would please start with our student athletes.
I'm here to steal Mr. Earl Dotson Jr.'s thunder. I'm sorry, sir. But I couldn't pass up the opportunity because this is about the most exciting board meeting I have been to in 6 years. This is beautiful. I am so excited to see you all here. Thank you for coming, and thank you for all the effort that you put into justify being here. We'll start with the Rockford Elementary Basketball Association. The REBA program has been a mainstay in our elementary schools for about 25 years. The season and tournament returned this year after a pause to follow COVID-19 protocols. Will the students from Brookview Elementary School's girls basketball team please stand and come forward?
There's more.
Congratulations, ladies. We're very proud of you. This great season. We're going to have Mr. Childers come and take a photo or maybe Ms. Bayer Eberly is going, oh no. There's Connor, because he's got the coolest camera on the planet. And ladies, before you go sit down, could I have you go to the podium? There's a microphone there. Pick it up, and if you could introduce yourself, just give us your name and what grade you're in. We would just love to hear a little bit more about you.
Hi, I'm Chloe, and I'm in 5th grade.
I'm Olivia, and I'm in 5th grade.
I'm Allie, and I'm in 5th grade.
I'm Jordan, and I'm in 5th grade.
I'm Yana, and I'm in 5th grade.
I'm Ricky, and I'm in 5th grade.
Hi, I'm Audrey, and I'm in 5th grade.
Hi, I'm Tegan, and I'm in 5th grade.
Hi, I'm Joey, and I'm in 5th grade.
I'm Madison, and I'm in 5th grade.
I'm Annie, and I'm in 5th grade.
Wait, one more.
I'm Olivia, and I'm in 5th grade.
Thank you, ladies. We're looking forward to some exciting middle school basketball next year. Next, could all the students from Spring Creek Elementary School's boys basketball team please stand and come forward? And Mr. Childers, with your camera, could you please come back?
I'm Daniel Fry, and I'm in 5th grade.
I'm Jaden St. Bandit, and I'm in 5th grade. I'm Maxim Milligan, and I'm in 4th grade.
I'm Kate, and I'm in 5th grade.
I'm Piz, and I'm in 5th grade.
I'm Don Lund, I'm in 5th grade.
I'm Peyton, and I'm in 5th grade.
I'm Asad, I'm in 5th grade. I'm Garrison, and I'm in 5th grade.
Mr. Nash, I teach 5th grade at Spring Creek.
And Ray Owens, principal of Spring Creek.
Congratulations to our boys and girls Reba basketball champions. We also want to thank our principals, coaches, families, and volunteers for your hard work and support and your continued dedication to our students. Again, thank you very much. Next, I am pleased tonight to recognize several students for their achievements and qualification for the IESA and IHSA state tournaments. Could all the students that are here from the IESA wrestling please come forward? RPS middle schools send students to compete in the IESA State Wrestling Tournament. In Class 2A, students from Flynn, Eisenhower, and Risa Middle Schools all represented Rockford in the tournament after successful finishes at the sectional meet in March. From Flynn Middle School, Hayden Roach, David Cannon, Malachi Cannon, Orion Lasinecki, and Joshua Sprout Hernandez. From Eisenhower Middle School, Saya Hungmangkwane. From Risa Middle School, Antonio Osorio Pasillas. In Class 1A, Kennedy Middle School sent Joseph Rodriguez and Josiah Tyus to the IESA State Wrestling Tournament. Joseph ultimately finished third in the state tournament in the 275-pound weight class. Fantastic. Congratulations to all these wrestlers. Please keep working hard, and we look forward to your next season. We're going to change pace just a little bit. Next up, we'd like to recognize the students who competed in a great season and qualified for the IHSA State Chess Tournament. Teams from Auburn and Guilford High Schools both qualified for the state tournament, which is an awesome feat, considering this was a rebuilding year for both teams. I'd like to invite the chess team from Auburn High School to the front of the room. Anybody? Okay, so it sounds like we got nobody. Well, Auburn High School's chess team finished 5th in conference out of 12 teams this year. At the sectional tournament, Auburn made it to the championship game at sectionals, finishing 3-1. Oh, yeah, they're here. This is great that they showed up because there's actually more about them. At the state tournament, Auburn scored 3 points out of a possible 7, and the team finished 93rd out of 126 teams. Auburn had a team that included 6 freshmen. A tournament highlight included playing round 1 in the bullpen against the eventual state champion. Yep, photos. All right, as we have done for all the other groups except for the wrestlers, and I'm not sure why we didn't do it that way, we had you go to the podium and grab the mic. Just introduce yourself and tell us what grade you're in.
Come on over.
I'm in 9th grade, and my name is Diana Villagoon.
I'm in 9th grade, and my name is Michelle Liu. I'm Sophia Ramorin. I'm also in 9th grade.
Hi, my name's Jian Sasan. I'm also in 9th grade.
My name is Andrew Meyer, and I am in 11th grade.
I'm the coach, and I graduated.
Well done, team. Good job. Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite the chess team from Guilford High School to the front of the room. Okay. We'll wait. Guilford High School's chess team finished 3rd in conference out of 12 teams this year. At the state tournament, Guilford scored 3 points out of a possible 7, and the team finished 75th out of 126 teams. Guilford team captain Joey Domino set a personal best record for his state performance this year and graduates as the 2022 MVP of the Guilford Vikings. The team includes Joey Domino, Minjma? Hi. How are you? Adrian Cal, Nathan Sherwin, Wade Little, Christian Owens, Casey Pulowski, Annabelle Keister, Sophia Nelson, and Meredith Dady. Congratulations, Guilford Vikings.
Your name.
Yeah.
My name is Joey Domino, and I'm a senior.
I'm Minjma Mirzahan, and I'm a junior.
Thank you. Next is a subject particularly near and dear to me. Could the students here who competed in the IHSA State Bowling Tournament please come forward? In IHSA Girls Bowling, East High School senior Mackenzie Wallace finished in 5th place at the sectional tournament to qualify for the state tournament. At the state tournament in February, Mackenzie had a total pinfall of 1,010 pins for an average of 168.3. For those who are keeping really tight score in the tournament. Congratulations, Kenzie. Two RPS 205 boys bowlers competed in individual play at the IHSA State Tournament in January. Guilford High School senior Devin Skridla and Auburn High School senior Peyton Alexander. Oh man, sorry about that. You got another year in high school, good for you. By the end of the tournament's second round, Peyton from Auburn had a pinfall of 1,193 with an average of 198.8. Devin from Guilford had a total of 1,277 with an average of 212.8 and was in 27th place. That's pretty spectacular for all three of these athletes, so congratulations, everybody. Devin, by the way, continued into Saturday's competition and finished the tournament in 37th place with a total pinfall of 2,489 for an average of 207.4. So well done, everybody.
I'm Peyton, and I'm in 12th grade.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie Wallace, and I am in 12th grade.
I'm Devin Skridla, and I'm a junior.
And I'm Jeff Barabbas, Guilford coach. I wish I was in 12th grade.
Thank you, everybody. Could the IHSA boys swimmers who competed in the state tournament please come forward? Two East High School swimmers, both juniors, qualified to compete at the IHSA State Swim Meet. These young men didn't have the chance to compete at the state level last season. The swim season, of course, was cut short because of COVID-19. Hunter Heinrichs won the NIC 10 title in the 50 free and was second in the 100 butterfly. His time qualified him to compete at the state level in the 50 free. Congratulations, Hunter. Camden Taylor shattered 6 NIC 10 records and is now the greatest swimmer in NIC 10 conference history. The presence of greatness. He also set 2 IHSA sectional records this year. At the IHSA state tournament, Camden placed second in the 100 freestyle and 5th in the 200 freestyle. Camden told the Rockford Register-Star, "This makes me feel really excited for next year. Hopefully I can win it next year and bring home a state title for Rockford." We certainly hope that as well. Congratulations, Camden, and we are excited for next season too. And again, as always, thank you to each of the principals, coaches, the families, the volunteers, the friends, the people who came out to support our students. Thank you.
My name is Camden and I'm a junior.
My name is Hunter and I'm a junior also.
I could do this all night. I could celebrate each of you for 1,000 different reasons, I'm sure, but that concludes my portion. Thank you.
All right, and I do have to say it is great to see so many people here. It's been a long time since we've had an overflow crowd, and usually if we have an overflow crowd, it's because people aren't happy with us and want to tell us that. So it's nice to see people here for happy reasons. Next, we would like to have recognition of the Rockford University Education Pathway Scholars, Dr. Brunson and Mr. Jason Pope.
Thank you. I am extremely excited to announce our 2022 Rockford University Education Pathway Scholars. I'd like to start out by just sharing a couple quick highlights for this current cohort and also thank a few key individuals that helped make this possible. So the fall 22 cohort will be our 6th cohort, and program to date, this will be the largest cohort that we've been able to put forward through in the scholarship program. Entering this fall at Rockford University, we will have 26 Rockford Public School students representing us as scholars on their way to become future educators with Rockford Public Schools. Very exciting. Of those 26 students, 60% of those students are made up of minority-based students, really increasing the diversity of our student population and our future education pool. And this is the first year that Roosevelt High School will have students in the education pathway, so we are very excited to see all 5 schools represented. I'd like to thank a few key individuals that made this year very successful. First off, Rockford University for their partnership and continued dedication to prepare high-quality future educators for Rockford Public Schools and for agreeing to expand this year's cohort to include 26 total students. Thank you for your support, Rockford University. To all of our incredible teachers and academy coaches within the education pathway for their hard work with our students and their engagement in the education pathway program. And to Ashley Thomas, our recruiting coordinator, for all her hard work with students behind the scenes. Without her dedication to the program and to our students, the success would not be possible. Yeah. So I'm gonna read off the schools, the students by school. I'm gonna ask that the students stand and come up front. If you could please hold applause till the end, and we could recognize everybody as a group. So from Auburn High School, I have Autumn Guidry, Brooklyn Harnesk, Holden Johnson, and James Wallace. From East High School, we have Brianna Erickson, Denise Hernandez Ortega, Evelyn Carreno, and Jasmine Pinito. From Guilford High School, we have Joey Domino, Callie Hess-Sostik, Nicole Facer, Nicholas Rich, and Owen Luneman. From Jefferson High School, we have Adara Barrera Medina, Ana Camilla Contreras, Arwin Guzman Servin, Brenda Adami Flores, Jennifer Arellano, Jenna Barnes, Karina Campos, Kelsey Dodd, Maya Barrett, and Yael Maya. And from Roosevelt's, we have Harmony Perry, Deja Nichols, and Raven Packer. If you could please all welcome and congratulate these scholars on their success this year.
Okay, we will now celebrate Rockford Public Schools. Flynn Middle School 8th grade ELE teachers will speak. Are they out in the overflow area or are they in here?
This is fine. Thank you, though. Are we all good? I know it's on.
Good evening, Rockford Public School Board and Dr. Erin Jarrett. My name is Carol Wolf, and thank you so much for this amazing opportunity to share with you some really exciting work happening in our classrooms. When looking over the third quarter English language objectives, we as an 8th grade team at Flynn Middle School decided we wanted to instill a culture for learning that was missing within the walls of our building. We wanted children to take ownership in their learning. We wanted them to learn about topics of interest, be proud of their growth in the classroom. And reflecting on this mindset, the team decided to use Rockford Public School District 205 Selective Model Plan, Do, Study, Act, PDSA. Each week, students chose a standard to master, were given the week to plan their learning, research their topic, create a product to show mastery of their standard, and then reflect on their learning and improve the next week. The results were incredible. Students who struggled started thriving. Students who were bored started engaging. And students who were already excelling were now challenged. And I am so pleased to welcome these students to talk to you about their amazing experiences with the PDSA cycle.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Crampota. Again, thank you for having us here tonight. We are very excited to inform you about the new style of learning that has been taking place within our 8th grade classrooms. I am also excited to let you know that I have incorporated a technology approach of tools that RPS has provided as a way to enhance student learning and growth. I have almost finished my master's in educational technology with the NIU RPS partnership. I have taken numerous resources from my degree and manipulated them to incorporate into our curriculum. Along with learning the standard targets and ELOs, our students have been given multiple tech tools and different media platforms to use that not only enhance their learning, but they will also be able to take along with them into their future and continue to grow in their education, their careers, and or business ventures. I truly hope that you enjoy what we are about to share and hear from our students. Thank you.
My name is Ye, but I prefer to go by Nunu. I am thankful for the RPS, Dr. Erin Jarrett, and all of my teachers. My project was a Netflix animation of Enlightenment philosophers known as John Locke, Thomas Hobbes, and Charles Montesquieu. The PDSA has definitely helped me gain confidence in speaking out and presenting throughout, not only in the classroom, but in the public as well. Other students in my class have also said that their creativity has definitely opened and they went outside of their box. Once again, I am thankful for the time and letting me speak in this presentation.
Hello, my
My name is Ariana Garcia, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. Unlike some of my classmates who are here to talk about their individual projects, I want to speak to you about the PDSA cycle's impact on my classroom and my school. Usually kids don't talk about learning at lunch or the projects or get that excited about doing schoolwork, but PDSA changed all of that, and I saw it in my class. My fellow students' engagement in learning has changed because we can see that the work we are doing is leaning to real-world skills and success. We feel passionate about the topics we get to present on, and this makes the learning even more meaningful. It would be amazing to see this type of openness in research project style in more of my classes. I hope that future Flint students get to benefit from what we have shown is possible when you give kids more control and opportunities to choose their learning topics. Thank you for your time and consideration for having me.
Hello, my name is Aiden Breeze, and I would like to thank you for your time. My PDSA subject was on the forever debatable, does pineapple belong on pizza? I was able to learn how to gather evidence that supported my claim, and I learned how to make a proper rebuttal for my argument. The thing that I like most about the PDSA cycles is that I may choose my topic. Letting students choose their own topic encourages them to want to do the project. Something that I was able to see was other classmates becoming more interactive and also having higher level of enthusiasm while doing the PDSA cycles. I prefer doing PDSA cycles over other types of assignments because the amount of free choice I have. When students are given normal assignments, it is very bland and boring. This is why I like the PDSA cycles. I would like to thank Dr. Aaron Jarrett and the RPS 205 for this opportunity. And I believe that the PDSA cycles are the next step in better education in the RPS 205 district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Board and Dr. Aaron Jarrett, for taking the time from your busy schedule to listen to what we have to say. My name is Tia, and my project was about my home country, Myanmar. The learning objective I met was citing textual evidence to support my claims about the conflict occurring in Myanmar. The reason why I decided to do this topic was because I care and love my country, and I hope to bring awareness to this topic through my project. I enjoy learning through a PDSA style because this helps me to be creative and in charge of my own learning. The takeaway from this type of learning is that it helps me to be responsible and be ready for the future. And again, thank you, Dr. Aaron Jarrett, for this opportunity.
Thank you for taking time to prioritize listening to student voices. My name is Jaslyn Gloria. For one of my PDSA cycles, I had to evaluate a topic that had conflict and had to decide whether the argument was valid or not using evidence, a Common Core standard that I now know in my own words. I chose the Gabriel Fernandez case because I was drawn to him and to spread awareness for what happened to him. The PDSA cycles show how we express ourselves. The PDSA cycles are more engaging than my perspective books. I prefer to learn in a PDSA style because I can show who I really am. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Dr. Aaron Jarrett and the board for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Jarrett, for this insane opportunity. I'm Holden Groff. I would like to invite you to our 8th grade Museum of Wonderland. On April 22nd, every 8th grader will be presenting a project on the origin of a topic of their choice. I chose the NBA. Not only was doing the project a big PDSA cycle, but we will be presenting our projects for the 6th and 7th graders in our school and the 5th graders at Whitehead Elementary. One of the things that have been good for me as a learner, I can set my own pace and choose the topic. Thank you for your time tonight. I hope to see you next Friday.
Good evening. Let me reiterate again, we are deeply grateful for this opportunity. As the concluding speaker, I want you to hear, this is the most authentic form of assessment that a teacher could ever have. We talk about real-world products. Even needing to wait through such a board meeting and be proper and patient and appropriate is such an amazing opportunity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What I hope you'll remember after hearing these students speak is that the goals of learning should come first and foremost, and they should involve the learner understanding the goal. Once that happens, if we step back and allow for flexibility for them to engage that goal in a personal way, learning comes alive. Student voice can be weaved into any curriculum, but we must value and protect this at the highest levels because it's very hard, and when things are hard, people will put them off. With that, it is critical to say that none of this would have been achieved, and I've been trying to achieve it in many other districts and many other ways. This is my first year in RPS. None of it would have been achieved without the success of shared planning time for teachers, a willingness with my partners, my fellow teachers, to be vulnerable and to take creative risks in the face of challenges. The cross-collaboration between our rooms has only continued to develop in the weeks that we have. And this week alone, I have seen students successfully move between classrooms autonomously as they engage in projects across classrooms, take ownership of their learning, identify the tasks, and decide what they need to do. I was blessed with building this experience of such collaborative relationships this year with an amazing team, allowing us to exhibit such wonderful student work. And again, we are honored for the time this board has given us. Thank you once again.
Okay, well, thank you very much for sharing. I see you're all wearing very snazzy T-shirts. I don't wonder where those came from. We are now at the petitions and communications portion of our meeting when we invite the public to make comments. The Illinois School Code requires that there be a time at regular and special meetings for public comment. The board will not respond to comments at this time. If it is appropriate, you will be contacted in a timely manner by staff in response to your questions. Each speaker will be allowed no more than 2 minutes to address the board. It is not appropriate to address individual board members or individual administrators or discuss matters that would otherwise be confidential in such open meetings. 2 names will be called at one time: the one whose turn it is to speak and the person who will speak next. When you are the second person, please come to the front and sit in a vacant chair. That way we will be able to devote the maximum amount of time to public comments. If you look over to your left, you'll see 2 digital clocks. One shows the total time allotted to public comments, and one shows the total time for each speaker. We thank you for your interest and for your cooperation with our guidelines. And the first speaker is David Sanders, to be followed by Jennifer Sanders.
Start now. Good. Hello, I'm here speaking on behalf of Lisa Diaz about her position. She is a deaf counselor, so she helps us in the deaf program at East. I think it's Rolling Green and Lincoln. Sorry, I only went to East. I graduated East last year, and I wanted to share my experiences and how she has helped me as not only a high schooler, but as a deaf high schooler, and why I believe that her position should stay as it is, and why I think she's done a good job at it. So when I was 14, we figured out why I was having so many problems with school. In middle school, I was homeschooled, figured out why I was having so many problems with school. I just wasn't connecting with people. I couldn't understand things. I couldn't get things understood. Nothing was going right for me. So about 14, I entered high school. We decided it would be good if I were to get tested for a few things, and it all went smoothly. But at that critical time, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on throughout childhood. So it is my belief that without that position, without somebody who understands me as another deaf person, as another person who has mixed kids, as another person who truly understands what I went through and what I will go through. It is my understanding that I would not have made it without that in my life, because people can say they understand deaf people and the experiences we go through, but it really doesn't impact you unless it comes from another person. And that's really all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer Sanders, to be followed by C.J. Reynolds.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Sanders. I'm the mother of 8, and I grew up in the RPS Second Understanding Program. And deaf cancer really helps us because we, in the world as deaf people, the world is closed off to us. We don't have the same opportunities. So when I found out my son was deaf, I really didn't know what to do. I was trying to find the right placement for him, and honestly, the shining star from the program is Lisa, because we have peers. We can look up to her. We can look up to her now as a role model. There's a unique understanding and her qualifications through the years of struggling with him, but to see her show up and everyone showing up to solve those problems, I really hope you will keep her job for the future of deaf children in this system so they can grow with her by their sides. Thank you.
And thank you. Next speaker is C.J. Reynolds, to be followed by Lisa Dias.
Good evening, sirs and madams. I am C.J. Reynolds, mother of Jasira Kemp. As you may know, Jasira made a terrible decision to bring a mushroom brush foraging tool to school to use for a science project. I'm so very sorry for the time that this incident has taken away from the educators and other students at Eisenhower. Jasira in no way meant to scare or harm anyone. She was just intent on making the experiment work and not letting her team down. Jasira has completed a 10-day out-of-school suspension and has been in SILE since then. Every day, Jasira has brought home a slip from Mrs. Livingston, the SILE instructor, stating that Jasira did well in class and to keep up the good behavior. On March 7th, Jasira was allowed to leave SILE to participate in Mr. Fraley's American History class. Today, she was allowed to return to all of her classes without incident. Jasira has proven that she is a safe and respectful student. She is still a child and made a huge error in judgment, and she has learned from this. I implore you not to expel Jasira for her mistake. Jasira is seeing a counselor to work through this difficult time, as she has had increased anxiety that she will not be able to return to her regular classes. The prospect of online learning after enduring isolation secondary to COVID-19 leaves her in tears. Today, the board is making a decision that will invariably shape my daughter's life. I ask that you put yourself in her shoes. A 13-year-old honor student trying to problem solve on her own, oblivious to the concept that the tool that she brought to school would be construed as a weapon, and unable to appreciate the consequences of that action.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Lisa Dias, to be followed by Melissa Jacobs.
Let me make sure. Can you hear me? You're good? All right. Hi, my name is Lisa Dias, and like I spoke last week, and I'm here to talk further about the IDA Act when you consider the communication needs of the child. And then we're with the National Association of State Directors of Special Education, the publication titled Optimizing Outcomes for Students Who Are Deaf or Hard of Hearing. One of the 10 essential principles is that qualified providers are critical to the child's success, and includes that without qualified staff and appropriate support services, the ability of children to achieve appropriate outcome is jeopardized. And AFDSE also stating that any setting that does not meet the communication and relating needs of a child who is deaf does not allow for the provision of free and appropriate public education. It cannot be the least restrictive environment. ISBE publications indicate that the best practice with deaf students is that the IEP team is required to consider language and communication needs, including the need to communicate with school personnel and peers, and the need for direct instruction in the preferred language and communication mode. Also, ISBE best practice states that services from a provider who uses sign language, which is considered direct communication, is not the same as services from a hearing individual who does not sign and uses an interpreter, and that's indirect communication. There is potential for misunderstanding, which is not ideal with social and emotional services. So in conclusion, I'm opposing the closing of the School Council of Deaf and Hard of Hearing for these reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Melissa Jaycox, to be followed by Ricky Naylor.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Jaycox. I'm the deaf and hard of hearing preschool teacher at Nashville School. Did you know that 10% of hearing parents, did you know that less than 10% of hearing parents learn sign language and are able to communicate fully with their deaf and hard of hearing child? That would be pretty frustrating for a preschooler, a preteen, or a teenager. Lisa Dias, the school counselor for our deaf and hard of hearing program, is there for them. She is highly trained in strategies and specifically assist our deaf and hard of hearing students. Her position provides counseling services in group or individual settings to help them develop social emotional skills, guide them through traumatic events, difficult feelings, learn self-advocacy skills, as well as provide a listening eye or an ear. In addition, she assists them with information on colleges, universities, trade schools that will best suit their individual needs and interests. The deaf and hard of hearing school counselor position should not be replaced with social workers who are untrained in deaf education in using and then using an interpreter. Using an interpreter is a skill that must be developed in our students. Our younger students don't have that yet, and they would miss out. Not to mention that now you're adding the expense of an interpreter, plus another interpreter to cover the first interpreter's breaks. Can our deaf and hard of hearing students truly open up in a session with someone who doesn't understand deafness, hearing loss, or speak their own language? With Lisa, that's not a problem because, as you saw, she's deaf and she speaks sign. So retaining Lisa Dias as a deaf and hard of hearing school counselor for students is the best option, it's my opinion. Retaining her is as the position as it has always been needed and always will be needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ricky Naylor, to be followed by Lori SP.
Okay, just last week, one of your own administrators came up here and said that what you guys do with these suspensions and expulsions, they get them before the board, and then they get expelled. So basically, what she was saying is, y'all do the dirty work of these administrators. Same thing go with hiring. You get an employee you don't like, get them before the board so they can get terminated. So they keep looking at you guys as being, did you do our dirty work for us? You do it, so you get blamed for it. Now we keep hearing y'all say you want to hear more black voices. Okay, you want to hear more black voices in an environment that says, if that black voice says the wrong thing, it's going to be terminated, or it's going to have its career advancements put on hold or get rid of. So you can't be saying you want to hear these. So if I work for you guys, I'm a black employee, if I'm a black administrator, I feel kind of offended saying you said we need to hear more black voice. I'm going to be like, what about my black voice? I work here. What about my black voice? So that's really kind of offensive, but you guys know that because you're white, you don't understand. And these staff ain't going to tell y'all when y'all wrong, because once again, this environment don't tolerate people speaking up. You speak up, you get gone. Now, two words y'all need to get a grip on, and that is representation matters. And right now it's not mattering. You got 8,000 black kids in this school. What representation at? Where is it at? You should have 4 black board members up there. You should have probably 8 or 9 black administrators, and you don't have those. So therefore, these kids do not have representation. and everything. And, you got this plan now. You're trying to pull off. It's not going to work until you get some black representation. That's what these guys waiting on. Those black kids not going to respond to just white staff in leadership roles. It don't work. We tried that. It doesn't work. So there's going to be another failed plan by you guys if you don't listen up.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Lori S.P., to be followed by Karen Marks.
Good evening. I'm not going to need the whole 2 minutes. But I'm Lori P., and my mother was Jacqueline G. Mannery. She was a principal at Lewis Lemon, and I proposed to have the library named after her since she's passed away. The school began in 1993. It was opened in 93, and I recall her bringing the blueprints home. And one of her primary focuses was the library. She was an avid reader as an educator, and she wanted that to be a central focus of Lewis Lemon. That was very important to her. I'm still going to call her educator even though she was a principal, because that was her love. She enforced education in everything she did within Lewis Lemon, within the community. She was a part of a lot of reading programs, and I just think it'd be really important legacy for her within Rockford, and just what she did for the district. That was her love, and she didn't do it for praise or that was just my mom. So totally did not go with what I had written down, but I think you get the gist of it. I just think it'd be really good and important part of Lewis Lemon to have her name up there. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last speaker is Karen Marks.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Jarrett, the RPS District 205 School Board. I'm honored to speak on behalf of Lori P.'s proposal and petition regarding naming the library at Lewis Lemon School after her mother. Jacqueline Gentry Mannery truly envisioned that under her leadership, which began in 1993, the newly built school had to become a building and an educational entity that embraced a world-class global studies academy, and that she did. I was fortunate to have been among the initial staff as the multicultural specialist. As a staff member, I perhaps was the closest to Jackie because she was most definitely one of my neighbors, a dearest friend, the godmother of my oldest daughter, an educational colleague, an administrator, and an Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority sister. I think I see some of us out here. All right. Had to give a shout out. Sorry, deviated. And I lost my place. Oh, therefore, I qualified knowing her likes and dislikes best. A few things about Jackie, those that were evidently at the top of her favorite list, had to be her love of reading and teaching. She definitely had an extraordinary keen interest in children's books, which led her to developing her very own large collection. She empowered the need for the school's library to come well-equipped and culturally diverse books, which met the wide range of interests as well as the vast range of reading levels. Jackie also found it necessary for the Rockford Public Library to operate a branch within the building, of which very few elementary schools in our nation ever had done such in order to meet the needs of their communities. So, as I recall, sometimes if a person couldn't locate Jackie in her principal's office, I knew she could be found in either of the libraries. libraries.
Ma'am, can you wrap this up? We're a little over your time limit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Awesome job.
Thanks. We are now on to board member comments. Are there any board member comments? Ms. Pearson.
Yes, thank you. I want to commend everyone that, first of all of our students who were recognized on this evening for an outstanding job. I want to acknowledge a couple of our city council women that are here. Thank you for taking the time out to be represented here in our school board meeting. I didn't want to forget that. I know what it's like to have so much before you and to make time in other areas of community. So thank you for taking the time, Ms. Janessa and Ms. April. Thank you.
Mr. Siegel.
Thank you. I, too, have got to say again, thank you to everybody for coming out tonight. This was an amazing opportunity to celebrate and recognize some great things that are happening in our schools. I'm also appreciative of those who came out to speak on the behalf of our educators, of our students. I appreciate that everybody can come in and understand that this is a forum where they can make their grievances public. So I just appreciate you all being here and making this, truly a public discussion. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other lights, the next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Jarrett.
Thank you, Mr. Rollins. For my report this evening, I just want to echo some of the sentiments that have been shared by the board. What a powerful opportunity to celebrate excellence with our student athletes and also the hard work of our faculty and staff, parents and students to build our largest Rockford University pathway class ever. That was a really exciting achievement, and also want to extend my gratitude to those who came to address the board tonight in the public comments. Thank you.
We are now on to report an action on items that proceeded through the Planning and Development Committee. First item is item 7G, naming the Lewis Lemon Library to the Mrs. Jacqueline G. Mannery Library. And I was told there were people who wanted to come here and talk to us about that, and I know we had two public speakers. Were there other people who had wanted to just say a few words? Because we'll invite you up. Oh.
I don't believe so.
No, okay. Then is there a motion and a second to approve item 7A? Naming.
So moved.
Okay. You didn't let me finish.
Oh, cancel.
Naming of the Lewis Lemon Library to the Mrs. Jacqueline G. Mannery Library. So moved?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Muhammad? Oh, she's not here. Oops. Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford? Yes. The motion passes with 5 yeses, 1 absent from the vote, and 1 absent.
All right, we are on, We are now on action report and item, We are now on report and action items that proceeded through the Performance and Monitoring Committee. Report and action items: A, Board Policy 220, Board of Education, powers and duties of the Board of Education. B, Board Policy 4.160, Operational Services, Environmental Quality of Buildings and Grounds. C, Board Policy 4.165, Operational Services, Awareness and Prevention of Child Sexual Abuse and Grooming Behaviors. D, Board Policy 5.90, General Personnel, Abused and Neglected Child Reporting. E, Board Policy 5.120, General Personnel, Employee Ethics, Conduct, and Conflict of Interest. F, Board Policy 6.60, Instruction, Curriculum, Content. G, Board Policy 6.120, Instruction, Education of Children with Disabilities. H, Board Policy 7.310, Students, Restrictions on Publications, Elementary and Middle Schools. And I, Board Policy 7.315, Students, Restrictions on Publications, High Schools. Is there a consensus to approve the policies with one motion and one vote?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody object to that? No. Please take note of a recommended change to Policy 5.90, which was not highlighted at Committee of the Whole. District employees must report abuse or neglect of students aged 18 through 22, as opposed to through age 21, consistent with the law now allowing students to continue to attend school at age 22. All right, I already said that. Is there a motion, a second, to approve items 8A through 8H?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Are there any policies which you want to vote on separately? If not, please call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
The motion passes with 6 yeses, 1 absent.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 8J, Student Code of Conduct. Jennifer Lawrence, Executive Director of Student Services. Is there a motion and a second to approve item 8J, Student Code of Conduct?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Siegel.
Without belaboring this too much, because we've already have had a fairly lengthy meeting, I just wanted to recognize that this Student Code of Conduct is a huge departure from what we've been accustomed to, the document that I've watched grow over the last 6 years on the school board. This is a document that is, I think, meant to better serve our students by providing a greater range of interventions to them. This is going to, frankly, take an awful lot of effort on the part of a lot of people, from everyone from the superintendent down to our parent liaisons, our paraprofessionals, our bus drivers. All staff are going to have to be involved and be prepared to help with these interventions. But this is, in my head, a very good thing. That this is reflects our efforts to keep kids in school where we can have a meaningful impact on their education. I know that this is going to be challenging, and I know that there are going to be some things that people are going to look at and maybe think, well, I'm not sure that makes a ton of sense. But over the next few months, as we prepare for the next school year, I hope that people will listen with an open mind and an open ear to the changes that are going to take place, and try very hard to understand why those changes are so important to our schools. Thank you.
I guess I've got some comments as well. These are potentially major changes, and whether they're good, I think, to me, is going to depend on the implementation and the messaging that we do. I've given this a lot of thought. This is an important topic for us, and I think that every child and every parent has a right to go to a school where the child is safe and where the child feels safe. I think that every child has the right to go to a school where they can focus on learning and are not being disrupted. I think that every child, every staff member has the right to work in a school where they feel safe and where they don't feel threatened. And I also think that our kids come to us with all sorts of challenges, and every child is better kept in school to the extent that we can, and we need to the best of our ability, try to keep the kids in school and find ways to keep them in school and work with them. I believe in all four of those things. And one of my problems, one of my issues, one of my concerns is what we message and how we message it. Because for the past year, all I've been hearing about is the fourth concern. And when we did the presentation of the Committee of the Whole, mostly what I heard was about the fourth concern. The last time that happened in this district, and I'm the only one in the room who was in the bleachers for this one, we didn't change the student code of conduct, but the message that was given to the schools was very clear. And as a result, people felt that the schools were no longer safe. And in 1 year, our enrollment dropped 2,119 students. We went from 30,174 enrolled students in the 10-11 school year to 28,055 the next year. That was the last year we had over 30,000 enrolled students in this district. If people don't feel that their kids are safe, they'll vote with their feet. For the past 10, when I got on the board with a new administration, we were told, have a little faith in us, kids are smart. And if you have a clear set of rules and you enforce them uniformly and fairly, they're going to figure it out. And what you're going to see is an uptick in discipline, and it'll come down, and it'll go down even farther than where it was. And this is an example, and I've said this before, where what we were told by the administration was exactly right. So when we got on the board, we enforced the student code of conduct. We saw an immediate increase in suspensions that lasted for 1 or 2 years, and then it plummeted. From the last statistics that I saw pre-pandemic, from 2009 to 2018, suspensions in this district were reduced by 62%. That's how much we brought it down, by fairly and uniformly enforcing the code. Now, that still means that there are some kids being suspended. And what I am concerned about is that the rhetoric that we use sometimes is that we focus only on those children and not on the other 27, 28,000 students in this district, or 26,000, who have a right to be in a safe school, free from disruption. We need to walk and chew gum at the same time. And so, if we do this incorrectly, reputational damage is really hard to come back from. If we do this incorrectly, we will see another decrease in enrollment, and people will be sending their kids to private schools again. They'll be moving out of the district again. For the past 10 years, we've actually increased our market share. As Rockford has lost population, we've kept our enrollment about the same at the expense of the private schools. Private schools have closed in Rockford over the past 10 years. They've consolidated. We keep hearing rumors, I keep hearing rumors that some of them are on life support. That's because we created a system in which people felt that their kids were safe and that the Rockford Public Schools would provide an appropriate learning environment for them. So keeping kids in school is an important goal. It's an extremely important goal. Doing what we can to keep kids in school, working with them, doing interventions, those are important goals. They are not the only goal, because we have other people to think about too. And so how this plays out, only 1% of it is based on what's on paper. 99% is on what gets communicated by downtown to the schools. The principals are going to do whatever they're being told to do. So I would like to see this implemented correctly. I'd like to see us increase our interventions for the kids. But I am just telling you that if this is done incorrectly, there are going to be ramifications. And not good for the schools, not good for Rockford.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rollins. So I just want to make myself abundantly clear in regards to the changes with the student code of conduct. Of course, I want every student in every school safe. I want to see our students safe. I want to see equity in our schools. And being in the field and having an opportunity to speak with administrators and the administrators among the minority, what we see on paper is not always the case. What I mean by that is it is sometimes documented that interventions were done when they were indeed not. So when there is a problematic area, that area needs additional attention. And for that reason, and it is unfortunate that it had to come 10 years later. Perhaps if we did it gradually, it wouldn't appear to be such a shock. But it is needed because it is imperative that our students be given the opportunity. And when you are on one side of the district, and if you're not engaged in the community, some things you will never hear. And there creates a greater disconnect between our community and the district. And so I want to be very clear that safety is a #1 priority, of course. But equity must be evident that equity is in our school district. It is in our school district and is shown in every school. So when it comes to discipline, some situations are different. I have had conversation with school administrators. Our schools suffer from having the necessary support present. So as we continue to correct the areas that need to be corrected, I believe this would be a positive change. It is a significant adjustment, and there's many other things that should come along with it that's going to take time and involve other areas to be a part of. But this is important for our district-wide, and it is time, and challenges are going to increase. So we must be willing to put the time in to do what is necessary, that we continue to fulfill our mission that we announce every board meeting. Thank you.
Ms. Stanford?
I just would like to go on the record and say that I have the same concerns as Mr. Rollins. We have a lot of students that we serve, and the majority of which are never in trouble, and they deserve our consideration as well. They deserve a non-interrupted school day and, of course, to feel safe. I think that the new student code of conduct could work, and I hope that it does, as long as it's implemented correctly and the way that it's intended.
Any other comments? Will the coordinator please call the roll?
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
The motion passes with 6 yeses, 1 absent.
We are now on to our next item. Let's see, Mr. Gallagher will present Tier 3 academic return on investment for the Freshman Academy.
Good evening, everyone. Again, just as a reminder, our academic return on investment study that we are doing on our Freshman Academy, it is a Tier 3 PDSA, so we present this information to you all twice a year. I thought it would be important for this particular update to continue on with the positive vibes we had to kick off the meeting earlier tonight, to recognize all the good work that is taking place at our high schools with regards to their freshman on track success that they have experienced this year. And so I will be happy with regards to this deck. Much of the information is information that I would have presented to you already at the beginning of the year. That being said, I want to cede time over to the representatives from the high schools that have been here patiently waiting to share what they're actually doing out in the trenches in order to get to this success. Because if you look at our goal of getting to 75% on track, where we ended up last year, we're at 66.8. However, if you look mid-year at the end of semester 1, we are actually exceeding our goal of hitting 75%. We're at 79% on track of all of our students. So double-digit growth that we are experiencing, and this is growth that is occurring across every single one of the 4 high schools. The manner in which they have done that, I think, from my perspective, has really been two-pronged. One, being much more intentional in how they use data to target the right students for intervention and to identify what interventions are needed for those students. And two, really focusing on providing a sense of belonging to our freshman students. You know, these are students who effectively didn't really have a middle school experience if they were remote, right? So to be jumping from that into their freshman year, and for the freshman academy staff and the smaller learning communities to really buckle down, recognizing that this has been an incredibly challenging year, but despite that, to come out of it knowing that they would face these challenges head on, being smart about the data and how they target students, really trying to provide a sense of belonging to the students, has clearly paid dividends. And so with that, we have some representatives. I will just go in alphabetical order, and if we could have Auburn team, for those of you that wanted to come up and speak towards some of the work that you're doing at Auburn.
Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jenny Keffer, principal of Auburn High School. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our freshman leadership team. Miss Amber Lee Black, our freshman academy principal. Miss Amanda Picard, biology teacher, a freshman A team lead. Miss Palos, freshman B team lead, also Auburn softball team coach, hence the outfit. Grand Slam walk-off win tonight. Straight here to you. Miss Devonna Fote, she's a freshman special education teacher.
Thank you. So in January 2020, I had the opportunity to join the RPS-RU Urban Ed program for cohort 4. And during my first semester there with my studies, Annie Badu and some other professors had mentioned a book, Grading for Equity by Joe Feldman. So that summer, I talked to our freshman academy that we were reinstating at Auburn, and all of us agreed to read it. And based on that, we started implementing equitable grading practices. We prioritized focusing on summatives and using practice as actual practice opportunities instead of using grades as a punishment or a penalty. We wanted students to really look at the work that they're doing as an opportunity to make mistakes and to learn from them. We also looked at the current grading scale, which 0 to 59% is an F, so it focuses on failure instead of actual student achievement and learning. So we implemented a 50% lowest score on our grading scale. We also prioritize reflection and correction opportunities. So when students make mistakes on an assessment, instead of it being a death sentence or like just you failed, that's it, you're done, we use it as a learning opportunity as well. So they could go back to their practice opportunities and then use those to correct any mistakes on their assessments. So they'd come in for tutoring with myself or with their other teachers, and they use those opportunities opportunities to relearn the material. So instead of just saying, hey, you didn't understand this, it's over, we actually spent time going over the material again and again and making sure they truly understood and truly grew. We also implemented math and English support with our classes, need-based. So we took some of the classes and we looked at the students and how they were doing, and then we placed them with specific teachers based on their needs. So 2 of our English teachers, we blended their classes and then created groups based on student need. And then as a whole academy, everyone's been on board. So we started this last school year, and then this past fall, we really hit it hard. I actually did an action research project for my cohort on it, and I plan on continuing to study this to look at our year-round data, which I think is going to end up being published in one of our education journals this summer. So I'm so proud of our academy. Everyone, especially the equitable grading practices, everyone really got on board. It takes a total mindset shift in the educational experiences that all of us in this room grew up with. You have to completely change your mindset and understand that we're prioritizing learning and practice and growth. And so that was a big part of the changes that we made. And then my team lead, Amanda, is going to talk about the next couple that we did.
Good evening. So we also offered extended learning opportunities for some of our students that were kind of on the bubble and just needed a little bit of extra time. They worked with specific teachers to do assessments or alternative assessments to meet their needs in order to potentially earn that credit back. Because sometimes the students, especially with COVID and being quarantined and missing so much school, we gave them that opportunity to make sure that they were successful. And then our SLC meetings, we meet weekly and we focus a lot on our students and what our students need. And we like to choose, we'd like to mentor our students, and we choose a few every week to kind of touch base with, whether that be with academic needs or social emotional support as well. So thank you. And then Ms. Lee Black is going to finish us out.
So next we incorporated our lunch interventions. So we took our freshman academy and split them. They're already split into 9A and 9B. So they take 9A takes the first 25 minutes and attend lunch. And 9B takes that first 25 minutes and attend interventions. During those interventions is a study hall. They're mostly led by our parent liaisons and counselors. And so there is a SEL piece that lessons we use within Panorama. We also use it as opportunity for tutoring and checking in with grades, for grades. So each parent liaison makes a schedule of what they're going to do, which days are SEL days, which days are days where the students have autonomy to choose what it is they're going to do that day. And then we have 2 days where it is set up like a tutoring or intervention day. And then the other 25 minutes, the groups switch. This is also cut down on discipline because our freshman students are not in the lunchroom for a 50-minute lunch was entirely too long. So they are very intentional about getting in, eating, because they know in 25 minutes they're going to switch and go into their interventions. The next is use of our parent liaison. So this year we were afforded an additional parent liaison in the freshman academy. So one of the liaisons take 9A, the other one takes 9B, and they create a caseload based off the number of Fs or support that students need. We typically stay within the 2 to 4 range because those students have a smaller threshold to overcome. Each does take a student who may be failing all of their classes and begin interventions with each of those. And then lastly are our academy assemblies. So we bring community members in who are expertise in different fields, such as teen dating, violence, or groups with some of our mentors in the community who deal with students of minority students. And so they come in, we'll have a couple of different presenters, and we set up groups where they will transition between the groups. We noticed that this helps a lot with our SEL and our social emotional. Within those groups, we have counselors on hand just in case that any of the students are triggered by any of the information that is covered. We really tried to focus on pillars of the community for this, because these are people that the students may interact with in everyday life. They may see them at Walmart and they know that this is someone who has gone through similar situations that I may have faced or that I will face, and they give opportunities to for the students to communicate with them. One that is not on there is our boys and girls mentoring groups that we have also started. It's called United, and some of those same pillars of the community have begun those groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Auburn. East, if we could have anybody that is here from East, please come up and share all the best practices you have for crushing it thus far with your freshman on track metrics. Thank you, Tammy.
Hi, I'm Tammy Berman, the Freshman Academy Assistant Principal, and this is one of my team leads, Catherine Plessner. And so we actually have maintained a freshman on track rate for 3 semesters above 75%. And our work began last year. We took full advantage of those Win Wednesday days and met with our freshman team, and really the Regional Office of Education has mentored me and helped me build systems within the academy that have really supported those conversations around freshmen on track and data. From there, taking advantage of those academy meeting times to really continue to have those conversations this year. We would love more time, but we're using what we have. And then we also had at the end of the year, Rick Wormley came in, and he's been working with our school on equity-based grading practices. So we've implemented things like no harm finals. We've tweaked our late work policy a few times just to try to meet kids where they are the best we can. And then continuing to try to give teachers a toolbox of interventions and options from which they can pull that will best support kids in their learning and meet them where they are. A big push that I gave our teachers this year was making sure that they took time away from curriculum when needed to focus on building those relationships and social emotional interventions. And then we have all of our students from the Refresh program over the summer, we put into MTSS right away so that they're in a study hall with other kids that were referred to MTSS throughout the year so that they're getting additional academic support through that study hall and through those interventionists, the parent liaisons, and so on. We also have been doing different things with celebrations, and I'm going to let Catherine talk to you guys about that because you're the builder of those things. Yeah.
So we decided that with our 77-ish % freshmen who are on track, what better way to celebrate their success than food? So we thought a hot chocolate bar that was given to us by another student who said that they might enjoy that, and we had the students come down like 7th, 8th hour of the day. They went through the line, they got to figure out what toppings they wanted, and then they got to go brag to their classmates, which they all loved. I think a lot of them really enjoyed it. I got a lot of thank yous. That was amazing. And then we decided with our staff, just because it's been a year, that they also needed recognition for all their hard work with our freshmen. So they got lunch. Jimmy John's is always a pleasure.
And we try to do different things. Like sometimes I'll buy them coffee, or if we have the freshman on track is where we want it, or we're seeing growth, sure to acknowledge it, recognize it, celebrate it. I think that's important with the kids. I think that's important with our teachers. Just making sure we're reiterating to them how important it is. And every single kid who came down for that hot chocolate bar, I said, "Thank you for being on track." So we're making sure that they know what that's for. We did a freshman awards last year just to recognize the kids for what they're doing. So we're just continuing to kind of build that learning culture in the academy.
Thank you, East. And then we have teams from Guilford.
Good evening. My name is Amisha. I'm the Freshman Academy Assistant Principal at Guilford High School. With me today, I got my team lead, a math teacher, and then 2 students that you're going to hear from. We really focused on this year with that sense of belonging piece, specifically trying to incorporate a sense of belonging at the beginning of the year. So we really put all of our efforts into the new refresh program we started this year, last summer, and then continued that with an intervention group we call Team 9B, where we put our some of our needier students with some of our strongest teachers. Along with that, we've done some work in our academy to kind of shift into student intervention meetings and be focused with supporting students. So you're going to hear about that, and then also talk about or hear the experiences from 2 of our students today.
Hi, I'm Tila Jonica Johnson. I'm one of the freshman team leads at Guilford. Mr. Brian Freeze is the other freshman team lead. Similar to one of my friends from Auburn, one of the things that I did with my RU master's program last year was to focus on student voice. So in the beginning of this year, during the academy workshops, a lot of our freshman team came together, not just to work on the academy workshop for our junior classes, but also to focus on what we could do for our freshmen. And something that we recalled all of our freshmen talking about was not knowing how to do high school. So for our first week, we did a freshman boot camp, High School 101. And we made universal lessons based off of our content areas. So I'm a global studies teacher. I made a scavenger hunt for Guilford High School, all of our global studies classes and the AP Human Geography class. So that is our freshman social studies courses. We took our students around the school. We showed them where the buses dropped them off, where they're supposed to get on at the end of the day. And we did the compass rose and just incorporated social studies as well as getting to know the school. Our math teachers taught them about GPAs. I think our English teachers taught them how to write emails. So just basic how to do High School 101. And then we continued on to focusing on a specific group of students that we thought could benefit from interventions. And our focus group for the Freshman Academy was different from the schools, and we focused on communicating and connecting better with our Black female students. So that started by just teachers connecting with our own individual students, and then we did empathy interviews. Mr. Shaw ran them. The students trusted him. We learned a lot, and that shows through our growth on our freshman on track rate. And then our final phase that we are currently in, every other freshman academy meeting, we are having different students come in, and there are bubble students, so students who can be on track if they pass all their classes this semester. We have a teacher who they are familiar, meet with them to show that a teacher and an adult cares in the building, and we want to show them every other week that we are going to continue checking in on you. We're going to keep bugging you, making sure you get those grades up, making sure you get that passing grade, and then also growing from there. So we're just really focusing on listening to our students and showing them that we care at Guilford, and it's been working, so we are hoping that it continues to work. Thank you.
My name is Anthony Capriati, and I'm part of the 9B specific group and the refresh program. And it's really fitting that we talked about these athletic successes at the beginning, because to me, the biggest advantage that we gave our kids that started with refresh was they came into Guilford with a team. They were already part of a team. They have already had success. We started refresh by building the gaps, setting a standard academically that they would be held to the rest of the year. From there, we started our relationship building, figuring out, and even starting at that point, some of the PDSA stuff that would drive us at the beginning of the school year, so that the day they came in, we had goals set in place. Once we got to the school year, they had already had such a sense of belonging that each other, all of them together, started taking ownership of each other's learning. Now, we're still learning some tough lessons along the way, let me tell you. We got some guys that'll call each other out, but sometimes forget to look in the mirror. We're learning that. But having said all that, on those days where it's hard to get up and go to school, I know that I'm going to have friends holding me accountable. On those questions I don't want to try, my friend's going to help me try it. And it's all those little places on the edges that we've made a difference that you're seeing it reflect in the overall scores. I could say now that where those kids started with those gaps at the beginning of the year, we are doing the same lesson plans as everybody else. They have caught up. They have made the difference up. Now, if you want to hear from some of our people in the program, they're going to come up and talk to you now.
Hi everybody, my name is Emrith Vargas and I go to Guilford High School. I'm a freshman and I want to go to college for 8 years. I did research and it's 4 for regular and another 4 to be a zoologist. I personally haven't picked a college I want to go to, but I already picked my high school pathway. My most important part of this school year has been meeting my friends. I feel connected to them like I've known them all my life. They have helped me through my ups and downs. And that's the most important part of going to high school, is to find the right people to be around and can make you feel safe. Thank you for this opportunity.
Hello, I am Ray Wiggins, here to talk about my overall experience as a freshman at Guilford High School, the school that I currently attend to. My advice for 8th graders coming to Guilford is, I would say, be more focused on your grades and not as focused on popularity, because that's really not going to get you anywhere in the long run. And be more involved in asking your teachers questions. Don't do extra things that get in the way, because the other 6 classes are hard enough. So focus on your activities in class, like work and homework. For what I want to be for when I get out of high school is go to college and get a marketing and graphic design degree, because when I get older, I want to be working for a big company for advertising brands. Thank you for letting me speak my mind.
Okay, thank you to Guilford. We do not, unfortunately, have representatives from Jefferson here today to share out what their practices are. That's okay, because I can share with you very quickly firsthand. Jefferson recently held a celebration for all of its freshmen that were on track approximately 2 weeks ago. It was a celebration that was sponsored by Buffalo Wild Wings, where I was voluntold by Principal Rundle that I would be a contestant in the hot wing eating contest. And I will just tell you, I don't remember the name of the exact pepper that that was infused into the hot wings, but it was literally on the spice index higher than what you would see in mace or pepper spray. So it felt like I had hot wings that I was eating that was doused in pepper spray. It was not pleasant, and I did not win the hot wing eating competition. I would hope the running theme that you heard there, I had mentioned how critical the data has been to targeting students and the right interventions, how having an intentional approach to the sense of belonging really matters. We're able to accomplish that in our freshman academies because of the work that our smaller learning communities do. And I think you heard there resoundingly from all of them that they so much appreciate the time that they have to collaborate with each other. It's been critical to the success that we have seen this year. And so with that being said, I will just open it up to any questions that you all may have, either for myself or for any of the teams that had presented earlier.
Mr. Siegel.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, 2 things. On slide 12, you had a comment that says teachers coordinate additional push-in, push-out interventions from support staff. Can you talk to me about what that means?
Certainly. So let me just walk you through this entire slide. And again, this was one that I had presented at the beginning of the year, and I think this really drives home how we have gotten to be so much more intentional with our data. So if you look at the red table on the left-hand side, that is demonstrating how the data had previously been organized in terms of what the end user teachers were using to be able to know how they're going to cohort or identify students for intervention. So they would be able to see that, like, student A has 3 Fs, maybe they want to look at all the kids with 3 Fs. You heard somebody present here earlier, they like to focus on those students in that sweet spot between 2 and 4, right? And so they would be able to look at the data and group students according to the number of Fs. But what's different this year is now you could do a drill down on student A, so that if you clicked on their name there, that drop down shows you much richer information. One, when they would look at grades in the past on their progress reports, it was, or as you would see on transcripts, it was always in an alpha value. So you would see an A, B, C, D, or F. Now when they click on student A, it's not just showing that alpha value, it's showing the numeric value of their grade. So now for these two students, A and B, that have 3 Fs, you're able to see student A has a 54, 53, 56, relatively high grade Fs, right? Whereas student B also has 3 Fs, but now when we drill down on this student, we're seeing that this student, 2 out of those 3 Fs are actually very low numeric values. And so when you're trying to think about what interventions you would provide to these students, it's going to be very different based off of this more detailed data set. So when you're looking at student A in their smaller learning community weekly meetings, those teachers would be looking at this student, and the biology teacher, the reading teacher, the world studies teacher, they would recognize, well, if this student has very high value Fs, we need to just be very coordinated in our efforts with what we're doing in our classrooms to help this student get to a passing grade. Whereas with student B, you'd see 16%, 26% for that PE teacher or world studies teacher. Us coordinating what we're doing just inside our classrooms is not going to be adequate enough to really bring the student up. We're going to need to do something more intensive in how we extend learning opportunities for this student, either after school, during lunchtime, otherwise.
All right, I totally dig that. And this is a great segue into point number 2, which on this sheet that we were handed out from the Auburn team, says equitable grading practices, and the first bullet point is the 50% lowest score.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate way that can get messaged. When you think about equitable grading practices, what they're really identifying there is, rather than having a 100-point scale that has 59 percent valued at the F range, it would be something more like when you're looking at standards-based grading or how GPAs operate. So if you look at a GPA where a 4 is an A, a 3 is a B, and so on, when you value each of the grade ranges equally, it gives more opportunity for students to not get trapped so far behind when they're starting off, say, second semester. We traditionally see a pretty historic dip in grades there, that first 3 weeks of second semester. So you have a kid after 3 weeks in second semester and they have 5 Fs and all of them are very low numeric values. That kid is not going to be nearly as motivated to try and demonstrate learning or to dig out of that hole, or just as the math works, it's so much harder to get out of that hole if you demonstrate learning. Because say if you have 17 grades in your grade book, and I'm doing some really rough and fast math here, but if you've got 17 assignments that are grades in your grade book, they're all equally weighted, and you have 16 of them that would be, say, an 82%, but then you add 1 0 to that, that 1 0 is going to drop you to a failing grade, even though the great majority of what you've accomplished is really at a low B range. And so to be able to bring up that grade becomes much more difficult, and it just isn't as true of a reflection of the learning that's taken place.
I get both of those principles.
Okay.
The thing that is confusing me is probably way more simple. And I would have loved this in my high school that I graduated because my principal insisted on it. If the minimum grade is going to be a 50, how do students get a 49 or a 16 or a 26? So, or because there's just something I must not be understanding.
Not everybody's doing that. That's at the discretion of individual teams of teachers to determine that. That's how you have this example, but you could also have that they've capped it at 50. So it's an individual choice. We don't have a district-wide grading scale.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Connor?
Yeah, first and foremost,
a huge thank you to the students especially that came and spoke tonight. I can just say, man, when I was that age, there's no way you would have gotten me out. And my dad was a teacher, so, with all due respect to my late father, I think he would have had the same notion as a teacher. So I'm very impressed that the administrators and teachers and students came here tonight to speak to what is successful. And if I might say so, it's one of the things that, from my point of view, humanizes what we're doing. And I know the administrators I deal with probably are sick and tired of hearing that from me, but it's really true. And I think that a lot in the community truly misunderstand the dedication of what's going on in the schools and the administration, the dedication to the success. And I think this was an area that I can remember coming on the board, and this had a big red pen around it. And I think the fact that people have concentrated on it, there certainly seems to be success in it. And even just by the numbers, which are excellent, thank you, but to me, it's what it represents, which is the effort to have something that really people are focusing on, and rightfully at that freshman level, because that's really, if you've done any work in public schools, that's really the drop-off point for the high school. So I can only say how impressed I am with all that effort, and really hope that this is one that we make as part of our culture. I think that the one thing that I'm hearing from a lot of the staff here is that there is a culture of success, is what I would call it. And the organizations I've been in, I will just say, where they were successful, and successful over a long period of time, is that you make something institutional, you get known for it, you get proud of it, people have that expectation when they walk in the door, and then you follow it up. And it certainly sounded like the students that I heard tonight are really well along there, and that's going to be a standard for our students. So I'm just saying, really, myself, thank you to everybody who's been a part of this.
I guess, my comment is a lot of what I heard tonight sounded like a lot like what I saw in Nashville 10 years ago. And when I voted for academies 10 years ago, I thought this was what we were going to do with a sort of a vocational gloss over it. So I'm glad we're doing this. I think this is what we need to do, this use of data, the use of the interventions. And I just wish we had started doing this earlier. The other comment, though, is the gloss on it is the grading for equity. We say that equity doesn't involve lowering standards. And by the way, the grading for equity book is a topic of conversation at my house, believe it or not, because my wife's a teacher and she's had to read the book too, and we talk about it. So the tension we've got is we want kids to learn subject matter. We want them to show subject matter mastery. But it's also the job of education to get kids ready to be citizens in the world and to be productive members of the world. And so the two things that I heard tonight, both of which come straight out of grading for equity, is the 50% lowest score. So if a student does no work and turns really nothing in, or turns in a blank sheet of paper with their name on it, they get a 50% grade in the grade book. And you can't go below 50%, is that correct?
So it's effectively, you're trying to use our gradebook digital platform that's on a 100-point scale for everyone, and trying to take that and fit a square peg into a round hole when you move to a scale that instead is 10 points per grade. Part of the solution that we've had in terms of not wanting to miscommunicate what our expectations are to students is that instead of putting in a 50% in the grade books, those teachers that are operating under this equity grading instead put in a Z score. So just like maybe you would see an M under an assignment for missing, there's a Z score, and that Z score shows that the student has not turned anything in, but the teacher knows on their back end that that'll calculate at a 50% so that they have equal weighting across F, D, C, B, A.
Okay, so I think that gets you to the same point. And the other is the tweaking the late work policy. You know, I just got to say, as somebody who actually is in a business and employs people, when people turn work in late, I don't say to them, oh, okay, well, that's okay, and, you know, you'll get another chance to do it. The first time they turn in work late, they're told the work's late, and if it happens again, you probably don't have a job. So my point is that we're trying to balance interests here, and what I'm really trying to say is one of those interests, just always keep in mind, one of those interests is getting people ready to perform in the real world. And in the real world, if you don't do the work, you don't get a 50%. And in the real world, if you don't turn it in on time, that's a problem. And so at some point, we do have to give that message as well. We need to do all the interventions. We need to get the kids up to where we want them to be without lowering standards, and with getting them ready to be out in the real world where there are going to be expectations. And that is my biggest concern about some of the grading for equity book and some of the stuff that's being proposed.
I certainly hear that. I would say that I think with the approach that our teams are moving towards with their equity grading is that they're trying to remove the measurement of behavior and maybe attendance from the grade book and ensuring that grade books are actually solely focused on measuring learning of the academics with the expectation that those soft skill competencies or attendance issues or behavior issues are going to be addressed by the robust amount of interventions that we'll be doing with those students.
Yeah, I think if you take it out of the academics, you're really taking it out. I mean, what intervention would you do for somebody who habitually turns in their work late? What's the intervention?
Off the top of my head, I would, if I saw that it was a repeated pattern, I would attempt as a teacher, I would do a root cause analysis where I would collaborate with my teacher colleagues in my SLC, ask them if this is also a pattern of behavior they're seeing in their classrooms. I would reach out to family to see if there's anything that is possibly getting in the way of them being able to complete their work at home. But effectively, I would do a root cause analysis, and whatever is the root cause of that, I would try to address by not putting a grade in their grade book, but by trying to find a solution to that root cause problem.
All right. Well, I've told you. I've told you my concern. When I talk to people who send their kids to private schools, this is one of the things they talk about. They talk about the fact that they want their kids subject to different expectations than the expectations that we're imposing on kids, and those kids are going to be competing with our kids in the real world going forward. And they will have gone through a system where work is expected to be turned in on time and that they will be expected to have actually done the work. So to the extent that, I'm just making, this is an opinion statement, my opinion is that to the extent that we consistently give kids the message that they can turn work in late or not do it at all, and because we want them to graduate, that will not help them in the real world after we give them a piece of paper that says that they graduate.
Thank you, Mr. Rollins. If I could just comment, I want to once again just reinforce the absolutely outstanding work that our teams have done. And I think if we gave the teams more time, they would acknowledge the great tension that exists between ensuring that in addition to content area mastery, they are deeply committed to improving student behavior. And I think it's just really an important continued conversation we have to have about the importance of separating behavioral interventions from student learning and academics. One of the great overestimations in all of the history of education, public, private, or otherwise, is that zeros motivate. I can tell you in my experience that it is really, really important to keep students engaged and connected. And if a student is buried with a 5%, those are the students that increasingly are lost to us. And the students that we can find ways to both meet their behavioral needs as well as their academic needs, we can continue that conversation longer, hang on to those students longer, and make a huge difference not only in the lives of our students but the collective impact in our community. So your comments about the need to do really high-level academic work as well as behavioral work are well taken. But I can tell you, having spent time with what our high school principals are doing and the teams of teachers and principals and interventionists are doing, I do think that they are deeply committed to meeting both of the aims that you've laid out, Mr. Rollins. And it's encouraging. We have a lot more work to do. I don't think we're close to where we want to be in terms of the overall results. But once again, I want to just applaud the amazing work from our teams, the way they've come together and rallied around this important work to balance those two important interests. So kudos to the group. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Mr. Connor. Are there any follow-up items for the Performance and Monitoring Committee?
Not that I know of, no.
We are now on report and action items that proceeded through the Planning and Development Committee. Item 9A, resolution for advanced spending, fiscal year 2023 draft budget. We went through this at the Committee of the Whole. Is there a motion and a second to approve item 9A, resolution for advanced spending, fiscal year 2023 draft budget?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson? Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
The motion passes with 5 yeses, 1 absent from the vote, and 1 absent.
Thank you. The next item is 9B, Administration Building second floor renovation. Is there a motion and a second to approve item 9B, Administration Building second floor renovation?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
The motion passes with 5 yeses, 2 absent.
Next item is item 9C, International Baccalaureate. Is there a motion and a second to approve item 9C, International Baccalaureate?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
The motion passes with 5 yeses, 2 absent.
Item 9D, follow-up items. There are no follow-up items. We are now on to the consent portion of our meeting, which includes items previewed by the board committee chairs during the Committee of the Whole meeting. Item 10, consent items for the Performance and Monitoring Committee, consist of item 10A, payroll, B, accounts payable, C, purchase orders, D, air travel, E, fiscal year 2023 student fees, F, IFB 22-25 Lincoln Middle School chimney demolition rebid, G, RFP 22-34 multifunction copiers, H, TransFinder routing software, I, addendum to internet high availability and redundancy, Item 11, consent agenda, Planning and Development Committee, A, Tier 1 PDSA Nutrition Services Software. Item 12, consent items through the Governance Committee, A, meeting minutes from March 29th, 2022, contract purchase orders, and C, Freedom of Information log. Is there a motion and second to approve the consent items?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any consent items that board members wish to have pulled for separate consideration? Please call the roll on the approval of consent items not pulled.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
The motion passes with 5 yeses, 2 absent.
We are now at the closed session consent agenda, including 13 closed session consent items. A, appointment of Dawn Williamson as 12-month Director of Athletics. B, the HR organization report and addendum. 14, closed session consent items, discipline, suspension, appeals, and expulsions. A, GDM 4476-22, expelled through the end of the 2022-2023 school year. B, GDM 4486-22. The expulsion is held in abeyance contingent on an expulsion and abeyance agreement through the end of the 2021-22 school year. C, GDM 4487-22, expelled for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year. D, GDM 4488-22. The expulsion is held in abeyance contingent upon an expulsion and abeyance agreement through the end of the 2022-2023 school year. E, GDM 4489-22. The expulsion is held in abeyance contingent upon an expulsion and abeyance agreement through the first semester of the 2023-2024 school year. F, GDM 4490-22. The expulsion is held in abeyance contingent upon an expulsion and abeyance agreement through the first semester of the 2022-2023 school year. G, GDM 4491-22, expelled through the end of the 2022-2023 school year. H, GDM 4492-22. The expulsion is held in abeyance contingent upon an expulsion and abeyance agreement through the first semester of the 2022-2023 school year. I, GDM 4493-22, expelled for 1 calendar year from the date of board action. J, GDM 4494-22, no disciplinary consequences will issue. K, GDM 4495-22, expelled through the end of the 2022-2023 school year. 15, closed session consent items, student discipline. EIAs. A, GDM 1100-22, B, GDM 1101-22, C, GGM 1102-22. It's got to be a typo. It's got to be GDM 1102-22. D, GDM 1103-22. E, GDM 8445-22. Item F was pulled by administration. G, GDM 8476-22. H, GDM 8502-22. I has been pulled by administration. J has been pulled by administration. K, GDM 8505-22. L, GDM 8507-22. M, GDM 8508-22. N, GDM 8509-22. O, GDM 8510-22. P, GDM 8511-22. Q, GDM 8513-22. R, GDM 8514-22. S, GDM 8515-22. Is there a motion second to approve the closed session consent items?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any closed session consent items that board members wish to have pulled for separate consideration? Ms. Mohammed.
14G and 14K.
That was G and K. Any other items? Please call the roll on the approval of closed session consent items not pulled.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
The motion passes with 5 yeses, 2 absent.
Is it okay with you, Ms. Mohammed, if we take those together? Can I have a motion and a second to approve 14G and 14K?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
No.
The motion passes with 4 yeses, 1 no, 2 absent.
Well, that brings us to the end of the agenda. Other business, new business agenda recommendations. Are there any board member action steps? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor say aye. All right, thank you very much.